Okay, we're online now. Apologies for a couple of minutes late start due to technical problems. They are all sorted out now, so welcome to this meeting, but I'd also like to welcome the new top table. So I think it's best if we actually introduce ourselves to start with. So if we start on my far right, if you could introduce yourselves, please.
Ben Hope, Royal Democratic Services Officer.
Andrea Snowden, HR and Training Manager.
Jen Lovett, Assistant Director of Workforce.
And of course, you know myself, Jim Creamer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Avery, Director for Place.
And good evening. My name is Rebecca Hutchinson. I'm Health, Safety and Emergency Planning Manager. Thank you.
So I'd just like to, from this committee, welcome all to the new post. I'm sure we'll work together quite well. Any interesting questions? I'm pretty sure this committee will keep you interested and keep us interested as well. So starting the agenda proper, any apologies for absence and any substitutions? Yes?
Thank you, Chair.
Yes,
apologies from Councillor Catherine Pope. I'm substituting in her place.
Thank you. Anyone? That's it. Item 2, to approve a correct record for the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of August. Are they agreed as a true record? No corrections? All agreed? Please show. Thank you. Right, now we'll move over to Annual Health and Safety Report 23-24.
Thank you, Chair. That's mine. Sorry, Matt, I'm getting a bit close. So I'm just here to present the Corporate Health and Safety Report for the previous financial year. Apologies, it's taken a little time to get to you. We are 7 months into the new year now, so work is ongoing. So I'm bringing this report because it's considered good practice within the industry to report on health and safety performance. And basically, in the contents of the report, is a synopsis of the business areas that we cover within the health and safety team and our key achievements for the previous year. Progress is being made and it's resulted in a reduction of the corporate risk rating, and that's been noted there at section 5. And recommendations are just to note the content of the report as performance of the health and safety team, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Chris? Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Just one question on page 11. Under procurement, you mentioned the sort of lone worker devices. Now, I know they're from my sister's workplace. They're not always popular with staff who are rather worried that that means management are keeping tabs on where they are and things like that. But I was wondering, one, do staff carry them when necessary and how often they are utilised, if we have any figures on that?
Okay, I haven't got any figures on it, but what I can tell you is that we do currently use lone worker devices within the authority. They are mostly used within our public protection and food, health and hygiene teams because they do quite a lot of higher risk lone working. We are hoping to expand the provision with this procurement exercise, and Sarah and I have recently done an exercise to establish the extent of lone working across the authority, what kind of devices people would benefit from, with a view to making it as simple as possible for people and for managers to check on where their staff are and for us to be assured of people's well-being.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? In that case, we agree on the reports. Please show. Just clarification. Thank you. Item 5. The report for Joint Consultative on the information on minor changes to the establishment outside the formal JCSC process. So that's you, is it?
That's me.
That's you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is for the committee to note. Essentially, there's been a couple of proposals that have been approved. First of all, public protection. So this is where we've made permanent a post of the temporary environmental health technical officer. That role was required to continue doing the work that it's currently doing that was viewed as valuable. So that's now a permanent role. On to leisure. Following the approval of the alteration to the establishment at the Boddington Theatre, that's where restructure took place. We have now appointed a theatre operations manager, and that role was actually ring-fenced for a member of staff as suitable alternative employment to mitigate redundancy. There were further changes in terms of SLT providing permission for 2 new temporary posts to be created as part of the Leisure Transformation Programme, and the Chief Executive has given under his approval for the role of a Leisure and Wellbeing Transformation Programme Manager, and that role is currently being recruited to. We do have candidates shortlisted and interviews will be held shortly. The second role is for a Leisure Transformation Business Analyst, and that role is currently on hold until the manager role is appointed. And that's it regarding changes, Chair.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
The Leisure Transformation Programme, the manager said, does that cover all the leisure centres? Because obviously I'm from Calverton, I'm always interested in Calverton, as everyone knows. And I love Calverton Leisure Centre, so just wanting to know that, I know we do get a lot of input, but it's always nice to know some of the managers are going there and looking for improvements and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. So as the Programme Manager for Transformation, a paper was submitted by the Assistant Director to the SLT in terms of all of the changes that need to happen in leisure, and so this role will be very fundamental in ensuring that those changes are made.
Good, that's what I like to hear. Thank you.
Any further comments? Questions? I think this is for noting, so those approve it being noted. Next, item 6, current staffing matters. A standing item, actually. So there we
Thank you, that's me again. So this is basically regarding the Local Government Pay Award that has been recently agreed. So as you can see on page 23, the submission from the union side was to put forward their pay claim for NJC staff. As you can see, they were looking for an increase of at least £3,000 or 10%, whichever was the greatest, on all spinal column points. A review of gender, ethnicity and disability pay gaps in local government and other changes in terms of the working week, etc. So in terms of the actual agreement, the National Employers side have agreed by majority to make a 1-year deal, and they've agreed to increase the spinal column points from 2 to 43 by a figure of £1,290, and that's pro rata for part-time staff. That's effective from the 1st of April. So we received notification of this in, it was the end of October, and we've actually implemented this in our November salaries. Organisations were asked to implement this as soon as possible. So that's been implemented for staff. So essentially, this means that there's 2.5% on any pay points above the maximum of the pay spine as well. And in addition to that, what that means is that when you look at the lowest paid employees in the council, which is at band 3, they're going to be seeing an increase of 5.5% in their pay. Other work that was requested by the unions was about some joint work in terms of pay gaps. The NJC has agreed that there will be further discussions with unions to discuss gender, ethnicity and disability pay gaps and provide as much information as possible so that will be beneficial to the sector. There is a trend now that we do look at promoting or making transparent what our pay gaps are in these areas, and that's something that the NJC are happy to cooperate with. And then finally, the national bargaining for the Chief Officer and Chief Executives has been concluded, albeit separately. So agreement has been reached on the pay increase for the Chief Executive, and his pay will go up by 2.5%, again effective from the 1st of April 2024. And the National Award for Chief Officers, that was already agreed earlier in the year, back in July, and that also was 2.5%.
So again, this one's for note. It's a national thing, and it's welcome because there was a dangerous strike action earlier in the year, so it's extremely welcome, which does help the council move forward quite effectively. It's a pity it's only for 1 year. It would be nice if it had been longer, but I'm sure it's okay, and we'll be okay next year as well. Cross fingers. Any comments or queries? Just for noting, any? Okay. So thank you. On to the next item. Item 7, the sickness absence summary. So is that you again?
It is me again, Chair. Thank you very much. So as the committee knows, we do talk about sickness absence quite regularly. And at the last meeting, we were talking about some of the measures that were being put in place by HR and by managers to improve sickness absence. And the good news is that we are actually, for the first time in 6 months, within our target of 9 days over a 12-month period. And so we've been running at a run rate of 8.82 days against that target. So that is the fruits of the labour that's gone in from our HR colleagues and also managers. So just for general information, average sickness rates in the UK varied between 5.7 and 6.2% over the summer. Our absences have been tracking at 1.94 to 3.85% from April to September, which is also a demonstration of that positive work that's been going into this. We do recognise from the information that we've provided to you that sickness levels are still high in parks and street care, and also followed by transport and waste. Now, we do recognise that some absences in these areas are linked to health conditions that do require that those staff refrain from working on their jobs, and that's because their jobs are classed as critical safety roles, and as such, depending on the nature of the sickness absence, we may find that absence levels may be higher where people are not able to conduct any suitable alternative employment. But we are actively working, with staff members in terms of helping them to provide the support that they need to return to work as soon as they can. So in terms of the top 3 reasons for absence, very similar to lots of other organisations actually, and that's mental health and depression, and that's something that we do actively try to work with staff on in terms of the benefits that we provide them in terms of good mental health awareness and training, occupational health support, and wellbeing activities as well. But on an individual basis, there will be cases that are very specific to individuals, and that's where we do work with the line managers to understand each case and support it as best we can. The second area was relating to operations and post-operative recovery, and the third area was back problems. So again, these have contributed to our long-term sickness absences, which accounted for just over more than half of absence days lost in Q2. One thing I would like to say is that there has been a lot of work that's been completed in terms of trying to improve sickness absence rates within the council, and we do still believe that there is more work that we can do in partnership with managers and with staff as well regarding general wellbeing, and so that's an active area that we've started to develop in, and I think we can do more work in that area. So hopefully you should see some changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or queries? Alex, then, sorry.
Yeah, it's regarding point 1 on page 28, depression, stress and similar, 266 total days throughout the year. Obviously looking at that, that's, half a year's worth there. Do we know, is the roles of the job roles causing the depression and stress, or is it something other outside of Gedling's control? Is there something we can be doing to reduce that on staff?
Yes, it's a mixture actually in terms of personal circumstances that we have no control over. Some is related to work, and that's where we are working very closely with those staff members. And we are going through a transformation period. There is a lot of change, and this is where we just need to ensure that staff are really clear in terms of some of the changes that we're making that are positive. And so we are looking at a communications plan in terms of how we can keep people updated, in terms of what those changes are going forward. And that's where we know we can make a difference internally.
So, Paul?
Thank you. part of what I was going to ask has already been covered, but I mean, it's good to see that overall sickness rates are coming down, and for the first time in a while we're below target.
Yes.
Also encouraging that in the last quarter we were well below the national average,
Yes.
which is even more encouraging. I mean, just briefly on sort of mental health, I mean, we know that it's a major cause of sickness across, particularly the public sector, but across the whole employment sector. And I think the trend is increasing.
Yes.
So I'm interested, I'm glad to see that we are looking at other ways we can support our staff. I mean, it's difficult for when the cause is outside of, well, it's not work-related, shall we say, but even there, I'm sure there's some assistance, advice, support, whatever that we can give, which, so I look forward to finding out more about what you're doing. Thank you.
And currently we do provide 24/7 counselling support. There are wellbeing activities. We also provide physio as well for people who have back problems once they've been referred and recommended by occupational health. So I think it may be useful for this committee to see some of those activities that we're currently providing, and obviously the new things that we'll introduce to support people in terms of their recuperation and their good attendance at work.
Yeah, with a slightly lighter agenda, I think we'll take up that offer, if that's okay. Councillor Maltby, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. I'm quite new, so I still finding my feet here a bit. So I guess what you're just referring to there is like an employment assistance programme?
Yes.
Is that purely with internal teams that they reach out to, or is there an external team that people can reach out to? Because I know with mental health, people may not want to confide in someone that actually works within the organisation.
We actually use outside contractors who provide our, I suppose, talking therapy. That's 24/7, so it's completely confidential. Although it's sponsored by the council, we pay for that service. The service is absolutely confidential, and we won't know what things people are actually sharing at these sessions. All we get is probably a report that says what the uptake has been, just so that we know that it's a valuable benefit for our staff.
Take roughly?
I don't have those figures at the moment, but
Sorry.
we can make sure, no, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
We can make sure that we can provide those figures for you.
Okay, and lastly, I spent 15 years as a welfare officer with a military charity, and I mainly work with people with mental health or PTSD. And within our organisation, I know many organisations have taken this up. There's the mental health first aid course. Do we have any staff that actually take part in that?
Not at the moment, but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Andrea has already done a report in terms of making a recommendation of introducing mental health first aiders. So a lot of work was done within a couple of months ago, I believe, and that's to
say a bit
yeah,
more.
you carry on.
Yes, so research across councils, there's quite a big gap between what they have in terms of fully qualified accredited mental health first aiders, and then the lighter touch, which is just employees signposting and acting as buddies. So I've put a report together and some recommendations that will go through to SLT to see what's the best fit for Gedling in terms of our capacity and resource. And so that's something that we will be looking at and making those recommendations moving forward. We really want to do everything we possibly can to support people in the workplace.
I mean, that's certainly something I'd advocate. I mean, I've been on both sides of that facility, and I can't speak for it highly enough. Both those that are trained and those that actually go to seek and get help. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
And it's what our staff are telling us they want. So in the employee surveys, they're telling us they want that. So, you know, we want to demonstrate that we're listening.
Yeah, really is a brilliant service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, any further questions or queries? If not, we accept the report. Please show. Thank you. And item 8, I shall read this out, because before moving to item 9 and onwards, the public will be excluded because of the information. So I'll read it out as written. To move that under section 100A/4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the ensuring reports on the grounds that the reports involved a likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 4, part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Has the committee agreed to that? Please show. Thank you. And are we off?